From Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown, this is Sports Bash presented by TicketBash.com. TicketBash.com, where memories are made affordable and where you'll never pay a service fee. Sports Bash is also presented by Ryan Anthony's Heating and Air Conditioning Service, keeping Long Island warm for over 18 years, serving their customers in Nassau and Suffolk with pride, honesty, and integrity. For more information, visit www.liboilers.com. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Every customer is considered family at the Embassy Diner. Mention Sports Bash and get a free dessert with your meal. And by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. For more information, go to martylyonsfoundation.org. Well, hi again, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Peter Schwartz. 516-465-3990 is the number to call. Make sure you're subscribing to Govs Comedy Club podcast channel on YouTube and follow Sports Bash Media on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Coming up on the show, very exciting, we're going to be joined by Hockey Hall of Famer Pat LaFontaine about the Companions in Courage Concert for Courage on May 30th at the Adelphi Performing Arts Center. We'll also have the Ticket Bash weekly sports calendar and the Sports Bash Media poll question of the day. But first up, it is another FOP day. Friend of Peter here on Sports Bash, and we've had an outstanding line of FOPs along the way, including our last one, Andrea Grimes, formerly of Channel 2, and she was fantastic a couple of weeks ago. And we've been trying to put this together for a while, and we were glad we were able to do this. A great friend of mine, you know him as the public address announcer for the Mets, one of the two public address announcers for the Mets, and just an overall great guy. And we welcome to the show Colin Cosell. Colin, thank you for stopping by.
Well, first of all, thank you for making me a friend of Peter's. Well, there I am. I'm on. Thank you for making me a friend of Peter's. Thanks for having me on.
Yes.
And it's awesome to share the airwaves with one of the hardest working men in sports, Peter Schwartz.
Yeah, I get around a little bit,
a
don't
little
I?
bit, you do.
Yeah, you know, it came up in conversation. I was in a Dragons-related meeting this morning, and the person we were meeting with saying, like, I'm surprised you were able to carve out, you know, an hour or so for this meeting with everything that's going on. I've actually, this is the truth, I've scaled back some of the other things that I was involved in. When I got the Dragons job,
right?
Like, there's only, you know this, there's only a certain number of hours in the day.
Right, I'm told.
Like, you can't, it's all right. So you can't spread yourself too thin. So I've kind of scaled back some of the side gigs to concentrate more on the Dragons. But still, people get this impression of me that I have 75 jobs.
I mean, it's not an impression, it's a fact. If you follow Peter Schwartz on any of the, social media, I think he's still on MySpace out there, Friendster and the like. It's Peter Schwartz is doing this, and I'll pop on LinkedIn, and there's Peter Schwartz. I'm like, what are you doing on LinkedIn? You don't need a job. You've got 14,000 of them. Everyone's looking at LinkedIn like it's a Peter Schwartz show.
You never stop looking. You never know. I don't know when
true.
This thing is going to end. I don't know, what's going on with the other jobs.
That's fair.
I mean, I think I'm in some good spots.
Captain contingency plan. I love it.
Listen, you always have to have something in your back pocket. You know that, right?
Yep.
So we generally start these FOP shows by explaining to people how we became friends. Now, we knew of each other for a while because we've both been in the business. But we actually didn't meet until the first year of the Riptide 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was 2019. I think it was December of 2019 when the Riptide. May they rest in peace. They're not dead.
Well, they're not dead. They relocated to.
They moved to Ottawa.
To this condominium in Ottawa, Canada.
Might as well be dead. So,
they're dead to me, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean,
they were dead to me last year.
Yeah, I mean, I still root for them because of my connection to them and everything. And their PA announcer is a good buddy of mine, and he also doubles as the Senator's PA announcer. And when I found out that they were looking for a PA announcer who was actually bilingual and could do French Canadian, that immediately pulled me out of the running. Not that I was about to, take.
You were thinking about hopping on the bus to go up to Ottawa?
Yeah, all winter long. It sounds ideal. That sounds like a great way to spend the winter. And so I told him, I was like, you got to put John in there, and he got the job. So, we met through the Riptide, and we were one of the last pro teams until the Dragons are coming along to play at Nassau Coliseum, and we had a lot of fun there, though.
I'm glad the building is still alive and still going well, but people were already knew of you as the Mets PA announcer. When you got the Riptide job, it was a little different animal for you because you had a little bit more freedom to do some really courageous things, like really get on the nerves of the other team.
Well, I mean, it was encouraged. I was told, Colin, whatever the line is, we want you to dip your toe over the line, but do not touch over the line. So they want to, and I said, there's a lot of jobs that are on the line by feeding me this line to not cross, but to delicately try to cross. And
was there something that you said in the 4 years that the Riptide were in existence to that point? Was there anything that you said, and you look back on it, I really wish I wouldn't have said that?
Me personally, no, because I was told that the job was going to be dynamic in terms of being a regular PA announcer, doing your starting lineups every time there's a goal or a penalty, and doing ad reads and the like. But then doing a little bit of play-by-play as it's happening. I'm talking for 3 straight hours. I mean, it was the most taxing job I've ever done as a PA announcer, but also doing crowd work. And for the last couple seasons there, I would take a wireless mic and just go running into the stands, and I just would run amok.
The hell with the script.
Exactly. There's no script. And if someone scored a goal, I'd be like, look at that. Someone scored a goal. Can you someone tell me who that was? I couldn't see the goal.
And for the 14 people that were there.
Exactly. Like one of them could answer that question for me. But there was one game, and it was March 7th, I believe, 2020. It was the final home game, and it was against the Georgia Swarm, I want to say.
Right, final game before the pandemic.
Final game before they locked us out for lockdown. And at that point, we really didn't grasp how serious and severe COVID was. So me wanting to push the envelope, I was like, well, what better opportunity than right now? And so when I introduced the other team, I'd say something snarky like, and now because I'm contractually obligated, here they are, the Philadelphia whoever. And so for the Swarm in that one, I was like, now, ladies and gentlemen, because they all tested negative for COVID, I guess it's my honor to represent or to introduce the Georgia Swarm. And then afterwards, my boss grabbed me and he was like, so, Colin, people are starting to worry that this is going to be an actual pandemic, and I don't think we should make jokes about it. I was like, you're probably right. And that was the only time I got close to chastise.
Yeah.
And then in hindsight, I was like, well, he was totally right because the entire world shut down a week later. But no, nothing where I was like, oh, man, that was too far. Yeah.
I liked it when you got on Philadelphia a lot.
Yeah, Philly was great.
That's a great city to pick on.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, and they had these bright orange jerseys, and I remember I lost the entire control room. I heard them over comms just losing their minds when it was just like, well, fans, let's give it up for Philadelphia. They travel all the way up here on Amtrak, and my goodness, would you look at that? Their jerseys were bright white, but it seems they've all been eating Doritos and Cheetos and have been wiping themselves off. Bright orange color we all know as children. They're wearing them proudly as the Philadelphia, whoever they were. So
Philadelphia Wings.
The Wings, that was it, yeah. So it was fun antagonizing and having fans being like, hey, do you need someone to walk you out to your car?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, these people can handle it. They even hear me at all. But it turns out they could hear me, and I got some chirps when they were coming in the penalty box, and but never did I feel unsafe.
Yeah.
Well,
so I could tell you, so going back years ago, there was another lacrosse team that played in the Coliseum, the New York Saints, and I was their radio announcer for 4 years. Only traveled one of those four, the last one, 1996. So we're in Philadelphia at the old Spectrum in Philadelphia. And I don't know if you were ever at the old Spectrum in Philadelphia. So the press box in the Spectrum was behind the lower bowl. It was an enclosed, it wasn't like it was out in the open, but it was an enclosed press box, but the front of the press box was wide open, and right in front of the press box are the seats now for the lower bowl in the Spectrum. So here it is at 7 o'clock, 7:30, whenever the game started, and I'm like, live from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, this is New York Saints lacrosse on WGBB. And some guy gets up and turns around and goes, F New York! Right on the air. It was great.
I'm assuming he did not say F.
No, he did not.
He completed the word.
He completed, even though we're allowed to use that word on the show and on this podcast.
We are.
Well, you're welcome.
Can we start over again?
Yeah. So
this is great.
Should I have mentioned that before?
You sure should have.
No. Listen, you're a guest. So if you want to say a bad word, go right ahead. I have said, Tony.
You have.
I have, on occasion, let a couple of curse words slide, and it's more than allowed. It's accepted here.
Yeah, but in your book, you're talking freak, and like you really don't let it fly too bad.
No, I think I said bullshit once.
Ah!
Oh my goodness!
I'm going. I can't. Oh wow, this opens up a whole new can of worms.
If you're watching and you saw Colin's eyes light up when I said you're allowed to curse on the show.
Oh man,
I thought he was like, oh my God, I'm not going to do the Mets games anymore. I'm going to do the show with Peter every day.
Yeah, because I can't say that over PA. I can't be like, and here they are, the Philadelphia Phillies. Yeah, like.
So Colin Cosell is the FOP on this Tuesday here on the show.
What does the F stand for? We're going to find out shortly.
Yeah, right. I think it stands for friend, but you never know now that I open
F
up.
off, Peter.
I open up. There you go. Good job.
I'll see myself out.
The bathroom is down the hall. You know about that already.
Yeah.
The Met gig for you, and it was surprising to a lot of people when that job opened up.
Yeah.
But I know they went through some tryouts and things like that.
Yep.
When you found out about it, how inspired were you? Obviously you were, but what was that process like for you in going through the tryout process and ultimately landing as one of the two PA announcers with Marisol Castro?
Well, at the time I was managing I was in the bar industry as a bar and restaurant manager and bartender. And I had fallen into that after a network I was working for called MSG Varsity, which in the tri-state area had gone under.
Yiskadash.
And so that was gone, and I figured, I'll get a job right, as soon as it's over with. I had the resume to back it up. I had a few Emmys under my belt. Like, who's not going to hire me? And it turned out no network wanted to hire a 30-something-year-old male with a dangerous last name, and by the way, is not safe and cheap.
We'll get to that last name in a minute. But
so I was working in the restaurant industry, and it actually worked out well because at this one bar that's no longer in the Lower East Side of Manhattan called Percy's, that's where I met two of the most important people of my life. One was a server named Julia, who's now my wife of almost 8 years, and the mother of our beautiful daughter Eloise. And the other was a regular customer who became a good friend of mine, who eventually became my boss at the Mets. And he told me, I was at a game. It was Sunday, April 15th, 2018. The Mets were playing the Brewers. It was a 1 o'clock game. It was 45 degrees. It was misty. It was terrible. I went with my wife and her maid of honor. We were newlyweds at the time, and the maid of honor's boyfriend at the time. And we managed to sneak in Jell-O shots. We were sitting up in the Coca-Cola corner. We were doing these Jell-O shots, and I sent a text to my buddy Joe, who I had met through the bar. And I said, hey, I'm at the game. He's like, dude, come and get warming dry. I'd love to show you around Radio Row, and then I've got something to talk to you about. I said, okay, fine. So we go in, get the whole tour, and he said, look, we're looking for a new PA announcer. Can you get me a demo in the next couple days? I can get it in the right hands, but after that, it's a blind audition. Doesn't matter what your resume says, what your last name is, none of it matters. And I said, you know what, why not? I had sent auditions to numerous teams of numerous sports, and I was ready to relocate. If it was a team that I loved, like, that would be amazing.
Right.
Thought nothing of it. So I submitted it, whatever. 1 month later, they whittled it down. I'd get an email, hey, you're still in the running, whittled it down. And then finally they narrowed it.
I was one of the ones that was whittled down, by the way.
Oh,
did you know that I applied, that I tried out for that?
No, but I'm not surprised. The man of a million jobs. Like, why not?
It's okay. I didn't expect the Mets to hire a Yankee fan for that job, and the Mets know I'm a Yankee fan, so okay.
Yeah,
I went through the process anyway. But
and they were just like, "Yeah, let's just string him along, the Yankee boy over there." So they narrowed it down to 7 people, and they had us come to the ballpark while the Mets were on the road, and they kept us very well separated. They gave us some copy. We sat in the press room one by one. Then they'd bring us up and go into the PA booth and then do a read for an empty stadium. So when the pandemic struck and there were no fans in the stands,
you were used to it.
Yep, not my first rodeo. But I was there with a gentleman who's now become a colleague and a friend of mine, Tim Gunkel, and he was over my shoulder as I was doing this read. And as I said, there were 7 of us. We were 1 through 7 numerically. Members of the Mets brass were scattered about throughout the ballpark, could not see them, and they were just doing it based on what they heard and the number that they liked. And they narrowed it down to 2, and I think I was number 3, and Marisol was number 5. And so I left the ballpark that day more nervous than I was in the booth because now it was out of my hands, and this is the closest I've ever come to a dream job that I've wanted since I was 5 years old. And here I was at 38. So here's where it gets kind of funny. At this point, and I'm sorry for the long one. You're like, I got a commercial break 20 minutes ago, idiot.
got 7 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever.
Oh, fantastic.
Just don't keep Pat LaFontaine waiting.
I would never do that. So I was working for an Italian restaurant in Rego Park, and one of our regular customers had passed away. He was a gentleman in his 70s, had a heart attack. It was very sad. But I wanted to pay my respects because he had actually put my wife and I onto the caterer we used for our wedding. So I go home, I get changed, I've got a shift afterwards, so I'm pretty much dressed in all black for my shift and also for this viewing at this funeral parlor. So I'm parking at the funeral parlor about a block away. And as I'm parallel parking, I get a phone call from my buddy Joe. And he said, so we've narrowed it down to 2 people. I said, okay. And he said, you're one of the 2 people. I said, what's the next step? And he goes, we've decided to stick with 2 people. There's a pause. And I was like, so I got the job. He goes, you got the job, bud. And I burst into tears.
Oh, wow.
I lost it. I mean, ugly man tears, just unrelenting. And he said, congratulations, here's next step, so on and so forth. So I decide it's in my best interest to not call any of my family or friends or anything and tell them about this, because I don't want to walk into this funeral beaming, having told this news and be like, hi, everybody, I just got life-changing news.
Yeah.
So sorry for your loss, and the big smile on my face. So
condolences. I'm the happiest guy in the world right now.
But I'm not thinking about the flip side of that, which is I clean myself up and I go in there and I didn't tell a soul, and I'm sitting on this news. And I go in with tear-soaked eyes. Everyone thought I was really broken up over the loss of this guy.
Yeah.
So I come in there and they're like, Colin, I'm so sorry. I'm like, he was so young. If I make it to my 70s, I'm like, I don't want someone saying he was so young. And so it was like, so I'm just like, yeah, no, it was a terrible loss. I'm so sad about Joe. And then I finally got out of there and I'm like, I'm like losing my mind. And then I called my family and told them, and the rest is history. And then on Saturday, June 2nd, against the Chicago Cubs, it was my debut in the Mets PA booth. We lost 6-3 in extra innings. Joe Madden was managing for the Cubs, so I got a real baptism by fire in terms of what I'd be up against as a PA announcer. Thought I knew the sport of baseball. Excuse me. It turned out I didn't know anything about it until I became a PA announcer and now understood the subtle nuances. He double switched me. He did all these defensive changes, pitching changes, and all that. And yeah, the rest is history. I'm in my 8th season now.
It's unbelievable. And it's amazing because when you think of your last name, Cosell, it's so synonymous with baseball because now you're with the Mets and you do a great job. But obviously, if you recognize the last name, and he is related, he is the grandson of legendary sportscaster Howard Cosell, and we've talked about this so many times, off the air, privately at games, how much your grandfather meant to me growing up. I mean, because there's a lot of reasons why you want to get into this business.
Right.
And for me, growing up, listening, watching Phil Rizzuto do Yankee games and Jiggs McDonald do Islander games and Spencer Ross and Marty Glickman do Jet games. Like, those are all people who helped shape who I am. And your grandfather was right up there. As much as he was so controversial and I don't know, I don't think I'm saying anything wrong here, but he did rub a lot of people the wrong way. But I loved him. I thought he was great. He was entertaining. What was it like for you growing up, being around the legendary Howard Cosell?
It was a mixed bag because I think they wanted me, my family wanted us to be raised in a, quote unquote normal household. So it was kind of a middle to upper middle class upbringing, public school, nothing special. But then during the summers, we'd go and stay at my grandfather's summer home out in West Hampton Beach, out in the Southeast Shore here on the island. And he bought that house to make sure that he would have enough space for his daughters and all their kids to come out and enjoy these wonderful summers on the water. So you'd have typical, field day in elementary school and school's out, and then it's boom, we're out in the Hamptons. And it's a completely different can of worms because now you've got people, walking by him on the street or driving by on the street, rolling down their windows, being like, "Hey, Howie!" Like they're yelling at him, and I'm like, "There's really nothing special about this guy." Like I see him without his toupee on,
right,
in boxers and a t-shirt, shuffling around the house at 11:30 at night, saying, "We'd love for you to, can you go get me a slice of pie? We're gonna watch this late game and whatever." Nothing special, But to everyone else, he was. And so you grow up and you start to learn that he was a bigger name than just Papa. You know what I mean? So it was a wild childhood.
We're going to talk more about Howard Cosell with Colin Cosell, my FOP friend of Peter for the day. We're actually going to forego the break because our guest is on the air. And Tony, I see no other way how to introduce our next guest unless we had this video.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, Tony wasn't
just the way I blew right through the commercial break.
Ends up in the far wing. Gord Janine moves in. Around Adams. Janine goes back to the net. Sets up a screen in front, then his shot is blocked. Goes back to LaFontaine. Turns, lets it go. He scores! The Islanders have won it in overtime. 3-2.
Of course, that was the Easter epic in 1987. Pat LaFontaine scoring in the fourth overtime against the Capitals at the Capitol Center to send the Islanders to the next round of the playoffs. And now Pat LaFontaine doing all kinds of great work with the Companions in Courage, and they're going to have a concert for Courage on May 30th at Adelphi Performing Arts Center. One of my favorite guests in the world to ever have on the program, the legendary, the great former Islander, Pat LaFontaine. Pat, it's Peter along with Colin today. How are you?
I'm doing great, Peter and Colin. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, and it's great to have you on the show. This is a big deal for the foundation, the Courage, the concert for Courage on May 30th at Adelphi Performing Arts Center. For you, what does it mean for you and the foundation to be able to put this event on?
Well, it's a great opportunity to bring people together. Here's some great music, a lot of songs from Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, a lot of jazz. They're a great band, Al Di Gregorius band, who has been around and have played a lot. He's obviously pretty famous in what he's done. We're grateful to Carl Lombardi, Rich Pluta, and Jerry Wood, who's part of the board, who are helping put this concert on. And it's just a great night to come together, May 30th, and really celebrate great music, but more importantly, raise money for kids in children's hospitals. The CIC Foundation, we build high-tech interactive game rooms in children's hospitals around North America. We connect them through technology. We have a bunch of events. We do a lot of things to just help kids when they're going through the most difficult time in their lives, help their families, connect them, let them feel like they're not in a hospital, and just give them some semblance of life back and just being a kid. So we've been trying to put smiles on kids' faces now for over 25 years. We've impacted over 1 million kids in children's hospitals around North America. And it goes back to my playing days, meeting some very courageous young kids. And they inspired me to show me what real courage is all about when you're fighting for your life or health. And as we say, no child should ever have to go through it alone when they're fighting for life and health. And that's what the CIC Companions in Courage Foundation does. We create special experiences, special rooms, and we just want to create special opportunities for families to just give them a break when they're going through the most difficult time in their lives.
Any truth to the rumor that you'll be performing at the concert yourself?
You guys are going to laugh. I literally took my first couple years of Islanders, I took saxophone lessons. So I did learn how to play a little bit. But no, I am not good at all. You will not be seeing me. There's two things I did. I was actually taking private small plane. I had to get permission from Bill Torrey at the time. I was actually flying a small airplane for a little bit there. Eddie Westfall was an inspiration because he flew his own plane. And I tried the saxophone. So there you go. I don't think a lot of people know that.
I didn't know that. I thought I knew everything about you.
No, Peter, that's one thing you don't know, and probably because I wasn't that good. But I have great respect for anybody who plays in a band. And come on May 30th for the Courage concert. You'll see a great band play a lot of great songs.
No, I was going to say I'm actively about to update your Wikipedia page. So in the retirement section, it's going to say also amateur saxophonist and pilot. because as a Rangers fan, you terrorized us throughout the 80s, and to know that there's a softer and more dynamic side to Pat LaFontaine. But granted, you joined the Rangers in the 90s as well, but it's nice to know that there's the I want to call it the saxophone. Saxofontaine. I don't know.
Saxofontaine?
Yeah, something like, all I know is you've got to perform now. I want you to grab the sax and play.
I might grab it, but hopefully they have a demo tape behind me. You could call it the La La saxophone. But yeah, I have to tell you though, I have great respect. People say that often when they say, "How do you play hockey?" And we just loved it and we played all the time. It's the old. Put your 10,000 hours in because you love it so much. I love music. I love playing it. I just didn't have the amount of time and passion to be able to put the time in to be really good. But I have great respect for anyone who can play an instrument. So yeah, I will be, in awe of the band on May 30th. But yeah, no, I just made an attempt, so I'm nowhere near good. I tried it for a couple of years. I could probably hold a small tune, but that's about it. So it was harder than I thought.
So Pat, if you're at a Billy Joel concert, and all of a sudden like Mark Rivera, let's say like he needs to take a break, you wouldn't be ready to jump on the stage and take Mark Rivera's place with Billy Joel?
No, you wouldn't see me. I would be hiding somewhere. I'm not that good. I made an attempt. Although my buddies, we have the Huntington Low Tide group, my beer league buddies that I put a rink in my backyard for many years, and we would have the winter club come and we would play night hockey at my house with the lights on. And
that's awesome.
We were called the Huntington Low Tides, and our logo was a clam smoking a cigar. And why were we the Low Tides? Because we really weren't that good. We kind of stunk, just like Low Tide.
Fair.
But all the Winter Club guys, and we had Dennis Leary used to bring his team out. The NHL would put together the Gotham City Snipers.
Yeah. He was a huge hockey fan, Dennis Leary. Big Bruins fan, right?
Oh yeah,
huge Bruins fan. Their team was the Roxbury Rippers, aka Ice Holes.
Oh, nice. Good play on words.
Perfect name.
Yeah, that seems very on brand for him.
It was perfect for those guys. And then Microsoft would fly out a couple teams a year, this big tournament called the Williams Lake Cup that I would throw on a weekend. It was the lake I skated on as a kid in Williams Lake, Michigan, called the Williams Lake Cup. And they were the hackers and the virus from Microsoft. And we were a bunch of beer league fun. I had more fun. I wasn't allowed to score. Shanahan played there.
Wow.
Clarkey, God bless my great big brother there, Clarkey, Bobby Nye, Stevie Webb, Benny Ho, Glenn Anderson, Grant Marshall. We had a bunch of pros, some actors, and we would have a tournament, and it was the most fun. And it was just a great group of guys. We were a bunch of 12-year-old kids for the weekend. And in that group of Low Tides, they formed a band called the Spittoons. A couple guys who played in bands, and then some of the guys picked up. Jimmy Johnson is the drummer. So we had a group that came out of that I gained great respect for, that I realized, it's a good thing I put my saxophone away a long time ago.
Yeah, but you can regale them with a killer rendition of Hot Cross Buns. I mean, everyone remembers Hot Cross Buns. If I could play it on the recorders, surely you can play it on the saxophone.
I wasn't that good.
I'm just trying. I'm trying to needle it. I'm sorry.
We're talking to the great Pat LaFontaine here on Sports Bash, and of course we're talking about the Companions in Courage concert for Courage on May 30th, 8 o'clock at the Adelphi Performing Arts Center, featuring jazz keyboardist Al DeGregorius and his all-star ensemble. Tickets are available for under $30, and for more information you can visit www.cic16.org. Pat, they say timing is everything, and I didn't plan it this way, because never in a million years did I think the Islanders would win the draft lottery last night. But I'm sitting there in Madison Square Garden with my son last night at the Knicks watch party, watching them beat the Celtics in Game 1. And here's all these. My phone is buzzing like you wouldn't believe. So I checked the phone. Oh my God, the Islanders with a 3.5% chance to win the draft lottery. They somehow win it with some fakakta system that the NHL has. As a former Islander, how stunned, how happy were you to see that? And obviously this franchise needed a little boost after everything that they've been through this year. What was your reaction to the Islanders getting the first overall pick in the draft?
I thought it was awesome. I was super excited. Listen, Kenny Morrow was my euchre partner. We played cards against Bossy and Schwartz. Boss and Schwartz, so Kenny was my card partner on the road. Anything Kenny touches, whether it's gold medals or Stanley Cups, he was the right guy to have there. He's a good luck charm. And I mean, the odds were probably not good. I'm guessing 1%, 2%.
3.5%.
So to have a 3.5% win the draft, it's huge. It's great for Long Island. And listen, between the Knicks and the Islanders last night, even though there's a little cross pollination there going because the Rangers and so on, but it was a great night for New York sports. I think it's a great shot in the arm. It's great for the Islanders for the direction. Some really tremendous young players that are coming up. And to have a pick like that, I think it's what since Tavares, was it?
Yeah.
2009?
2009.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, and I think it's just tremendous. Excited for the organizations, excited for the fan base. I was a third overall pick back in '83. I know what it means and how it feels to be chosen as a New York Islander. And for whatever player, the team chooses, what a great opportunity. What a great legacy to be a part of. And it was a great day. I was happy. I mean, like Kenny was the perfect guy to be on there. Like I said, whether it was playing euchre with me and we would beat Trotz and Boss. Trotz will say he won all the time, but both he and Boss still owe Kenny Morrow and I some money from our euchre card games. But Kenny is he's awesome, and I think he was a good luck charm yesterday.
Pat, while the Islanders do have the first pick in the draft, they actually need somebody to make that pick because they're without a president and a general manager. Any thoughts on that? Any interest on your part? You've been involved in hockey for a long time and a former Islander. Would that opening be of interest to you?
What a time to lose your connection.
I think it'd be interesting for. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you. I'm sorry. That was just a timing thing. I was making a terrible joke. Yeah, you're good, Pat.
I said everything already. Did you guys get it?
Oh no, we didn't hear it. We didn't hear any of it.
I'm just joking.
I was going to say you fell for that one, Peter. Come on.
Jesus.
I'm sitting there. I'm like, you just got duped by a hockey player, my friend. Well done, Pat.
I mean,
well
sometimes
done.
you have to throw things up against the wall and see if it sticks, and I felt I would try it.
And it was a resounding yes. That was him actually throwing his hat in the ring right there live on your show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, what I would say is first thought Lou Lamoriello did an incredible job, and I reached out to Lou afterwards because Lou Lamoriello, I've said this about Al Arbor, he's kind of the Vince Lombardi of coaching in hockey. And you have the great Bill Torrey, and you can put, Toe Blake, Punch in Black, Bill Torrey, and Lou Lamoriello on the Mount Rushmore of general managers in the game. So I just, what Lou did to bring back the Islander culture, the Islander way of winning, he and Barry Trotz, when he also brought back Barry Trotz, I was so grateful to see the team kind of get back to that winning culture, that feeling of what it felt like when I was playing there. So that's what I was excited. I mean, obviously, things take their course, but grateful to see the Islanders where they are and what they've done. I think John Collins is super successful in whatever he's done, whatever he's touched, whether it's Winter Classic, NHL, football, hockey. He's super talented. So whoever he's going to choose, I'm sure will bring that same experience, enthusiasm, and knowledge to bring this team and keep this team, at that high level and compete every year. Because the goal is really to compete every year and build a championship team like there was, for so many years. But I give Lou a lot of credit for what he was able to bring back to the Islander fans. And I know guys, and God bless Clarkie because I miss him every day. The guys who played during that time, and I was fortunate, Flats and I caught the tail end. So we know what it felt like to be a part of that, and you guys know as fans. So to have that feeling back again meant so much, and the way the alumni were embraced, The ownership has done a first-class job. Scott Melkin, John Ledecky, obviously John Collins now part of that. So it's going to be obviously an important move for the future. But I think the table and the culture is set to pass that torch to keep the momentum going. Obviously, this kind of team ran a certain course. There's still a lot of pieces here. But with the right decisions, the right moves, and a short period of time, making some right, developing choices, some right draft picks. There's no reason why. You see what Washington did pretty quick, retooling their team. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can break the team down and start, and it takes a little longer, or you can kind of reload and kind of go right back at it, which it seems to be the opportunity to also, do with some of these teams that have done it. But I'm excited for the team. It's definitely the start for them for the changes that are coming.
And Pat, I've mentioned this to you before when you've been on different platforms I've been on. I think sometimes you probably get a little tired of me bringing this up, but whoever becomes the new GM and the president, they have an objective here, and I keep preaching this because there's a name missing from the Islanders Hall of Fame, and it's your name. And there's a number of names that are missing, but I talk a lot about how important it would be for Islander fans of all ages for you to finally be in the Islanders Hall of Fame. And I know you want me to shut up about it, but I just for the purposes of this audience, have there been any conversations? How badly would you like to be in the Islanders Hall of Fame? Because I know a lot of Islander fans of all ages that are not happy that your name is not up there yet.
Well, Pete, you always bring that up. You're very nice. I'm very quiet about it because to me, I married a Long Island girl from Huntington. I've had kids here. We live here now. That's really my Hall of Fame. If anything ever came of it, it would be a tremendous honor. But it's not why I played the game. It's not why I came to Long Island and stay here on Long Island. Obviously, anybody who goes to any Hall of Fame or is a part of that in any organization is a tremendous honor. But honestly, I don't give it a lot of thought. Like I said, I'm just fortunate. And I go back to the draft. People don't understand. Well, some of them do. But it's amazing what one pick, and I'm grateful to Bill Torrey. With Al Arbor as coach, Bill made that along with the draft, the draft core, the draft group for the Islanders. But it was obviously Bill who made that decision. That is a life-changing decision for any player. I was always told I was going to Detroit or Hartford, believe it or not. Hartford was picked second, so it was Hartford or Detroit. So when Hartford picked Sylvain Turgeon, I turned to my mom and dad and agent Donnie Meehan, and I said, well, it looks like I'm going back home to Detroit because nobody had ever mentioned the New York Islanders. And then all of a sudden I heard my name and Donnie and the Islanders. And I went, oh, my God, 4 Stanley Cups, Trottier, Bossy. And I was so excited and super thrilled because when I was 15, and all of a sudden it's the fall, it's in May, and we're doing spring cleaning. I'm thinking, well, maybe at 15 I could become an Olympian now because they just won the gold medal. My dad calls us in. My brother and I were doing spring cleaning outside. It's the Islanders and Philly in overtime. I'm 15 years old. I'm in Detroit, Michigan on Williams Lake. And we're watching it. And then all of a sudden heading to Tonelli to Nystrom. And we're jumping up and down. And we're going nuts. And the first thing I said was,
you should have seen me,
where the
Pat.
heck is Long Island?
Pat, you should have seen me when that happened.
Literally, I had to go get